While most Cowboys-focused memories of their wildcard victory over the Seahawks are positive ones, those surrounding Allen Hurns are rather brutal. Hurns had to be carted off of the field early in that playoff game with a lower leg injury, and looked like he'd be out for quite some time. Somehow, Allen Hurns is expected to be ready for training camp and should be healthy and ready to go for Week 1 in the fall. Just because he'll be ready to go, however, doesn't mean the Cowboys will be eager to have him on the field. Hurns wasn't too productive during his first year in Dallas, and saw his playing time decreased heavily after the Cowboys traded for wide receiver Amari Cooper. As of right now, you'd expect Hurns to be in the WR4 role for the Cowboys backing up Cooper. Michael Gallup is an outside receiver. Stephen Jones spoke differently about his potential role, however, stating that he thinks Hurns can help in the slot for the Cowboys in 2019. Especially if Cole Beasley moves on to a new team. Replacing Beasley with Hurns is not exactly an improvement at the position, and you'd still like Dallas to bring in a player from the outside to compete for reps in the slot, whether that be through free agency or the NFL draft. Either way, Hurns' value to the receiving corps in 2019 should be in question, even if the Cowboys staff continues to preach about how much of a leader and positive locker room guy he is. I have no doubt that Hurns is a great dude worthy of a training camp spot with the team and a chance to compete. But a player's mentality and leadership should not be valued over actual on-field ability, especially when you are trying to improve your passing attack in the modern NFL. When Hurns was signed last offseason, fans hoped he could replace some of the production which would be lost with Dez Bryant being released. In Jacksonville there were examples of him filling that Dez-like role, but nothing he did with Dallas in 2018 should give you confidence he can do so going forward. The answer to the title of this piece, at least at this point, is, I don't know, nobody really knows. The Cowboys like Hurns enough to pick up his option for 2019, but I'd be shocked if they came away from the draft without a player who could serve as a direct replacement with a higher talent ceiling. Allen Hurns. Dallas Cowboys wide receiver safety Landon Collins, formerly with the New York Giants, won't be leaving the NFC East anytime soon. He'll be heading down I-95 to Washington, D.C., having just agreed to terms on a 6-year contract with the Redskins. Arguably the biggest move so far in 2019 free agency, Collins' new deal helps set the price for the many other safeties on the market. That makes this transaction doubly interesting for the Dallas Cowboys. Sources: former. Hard to imagine a box safety with this kind of deal after last year's slow safety market. This moves the market dramatically. On its own merit, seeing a top player like Landon Collins stay in the NFC East isn't ideal for Dallas. But perhaps more importantly, it validates the $14 to $15 million per season that potential Cowboys target Earl Thomas is reportedly looking for. While Thomas is about 5 years older than Collins and coming off a season-ending injury, he's also arguably the best cover safety in the NFL. That is becoming more valuable all the time as the league increasingly pass-focused. I said rumored to be, but can now confirm, at least in the market of $14 or more a year, per source. He wants to beat Eric Berry's number, which is roughly $13 a year. https://t.co/uj7n2he7l. It's also worth nothing that Collins and Thomas have the same agent, who will likely feel obligated to get Earl at least the same amount if not more. The Cowboys have stated they don't want to spend that kind of money in free agency. However, upgrading the safety position is one of the clearest ways that they can improve their defense from last season. This does not end the discussion of Earl Thomas coming to Dallas. He still could accept a little less to come to the team he wants to play for, and in a state with no income tax. Or the Cowboys could finally decide that they need to make a big move to push the team to championship contention. But this Landon Collins signing does certainly play a big factor now in any future negotiations. 2018 was a weird year for Cowboys cornerback Jordan Lewis. After a stellar rookie season which raised expectations for Lewis heading into year 2, staff changes and preseason uncertainty left him in no man's land last season. Despite spending most of his time on the boundary in 2017, Jourdan Lewis was moved to the slot during his sophomore campaign. With Byron Jones and Chidobe Awuzie on the outside, most expected Lewis to be the starting slot corner to complete the young trio. Instead, after a preseason position battle, it was Anthony Brown who won that slot cornerback role. And because of his solid play all season, Brown never really relinquished his spot on the depth chart. This relegated Jourdan Lewis to a lesser role than expected, but when he got his opportunities, he typically made the most of them. Asked to cover Alvin Kamara on passing downs during the Cowboys' victory against the Saints, Lewis had his best game of the season and kept the prolific pass-catching running back on lockdown. He also did everything he was asked to do by the coaching staff, even working with the offense on jet sweeps when Tavon Austin was out. The Cowboys are 4 deep with talented cornerbacks at arguably one of the most important position groups in all of football, but it's fair to wonder what the future has in store for Jourdan Lewis. Passing game coordinator and assumed defensive coordinator in waiting Chris Richard has a clear type of cornerback he values, and unfortunately for Lewis, he doesn't really fit that mold. Both Anthony Brown and Byron Jones are entering contract years, and it's likely Dallas will look to add another defensive back through the 2019 NFL Draft. Because of Richard's preferences, Dallas is being linked to corners like Houston's Isaiah Johnson. And though he doesn't have the natural coverage abilities that Lewis has, Richard may see the opportunity to mold Johnson into a starting cornerback in time due to his physical attributes. How the Cowboys decide to deal with Anthony Brown's contract situation will also play a big role in Lewis' future with the team. If they let Brown walk next offseason, Lewis would likely slide right into that starting slot cornerback role. But if Brown has another solid season and the Cowboys bring him back, Lewis' days with the Cowboys could very well be numbered. Jourdan Lewis is a good football player and deserving of playing time, but it doesn't appear that Chris Richard is too interested in playing both he and Anthony Brown together too often. Of course, you can never have enough good corners, but you also don't want to waste a talented player's time on the bench either. Position battles during training camp and the upcoming preseason may end up deciding which of the 2 young corners is on the roster in 2020 and beyond. Offensive tackle Jeremy Parnell, a former member of the Dallas Cowboys, was recently released by the Jacksonville Jaguars in a move to create more salary cap savings. He was due $6 million in 2019, clearing more cap space. Parnell started the last 4 years at right tackle for the Jaguars, but now finds himself without a job heading into the 2019 season for the first time in 8 years. But that might not be for long if the Dallas Cowboys have anything to say about it. Before joining the Jaguars, Parnell spent 4 years of his career with the Dallas Cowboys. It was with the Cowboys, where he was converted into a full-time offensive tackle after trying his hand at a few other positions. Parnell entered the league as an undrafted free agent defensive end with the New Orleans Saints in 2009. With the Saints he was tried at defensive tackle, tight end, and offensive tackle, but never appeared in the game. He did however win a Super Bowl ring as a member of their practice squad. He ended up getting released before the start of the 2010 season and spent a short 20 days with the Miami Dolphins before making his way back to the Saints for a second time. But unfortunately that didn't last long either. That's when the Cowboys jumped in and signed him on October 14, 2010. This is where his career finally found some footing. With the Cowboys, Jeremy Parnell finally found his full-time position and developed into a starting-caliber offensive tackle. The majority of his time in Dallas, he was their swing tackle, but he eventually split time in a rotation with Doug Free at right tackle in 2012. In 2014 Parnell started 8 games at RT when Free was sidelined with an ankle injury and foot fracture. We all know the story from there. He signed a lucrative contract with the Jacksonville Jaguars as an unrestricted free agent in 2015, and that's where he spent the last 4 years of his career. Now that he finds himself a new fall once again, he could come back to where his career took off in the first place. The Dallas Cowboys are in need of a swing tackle, and Parnell certainly fits the parameters of their strategy for acquiring FAs in free agency. He is someone the Cowboys are very familiar with, and it's unlikely that he has a lot of suitors for his services considering he's 32 years old. This is exactly the kind of cost-effective free agent Dallas gravitates to, and someone who fills a need on the roster. It almost makes too much sense not to happen. Do you think the Dallas Cowboys and Jeremy Parnell will reunite?